Wow, you couldn't really see us, could you?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Say hello, Maria.
Hi. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, listen, here we are. We just did a great personal questions with Dr. T. I'm using this time I squeezed in here in front of the camera to do a quick intro because, as I just told this beautiful young woman, I do not like being in front of the camera, believe it or not. But here we go. Enjoy Personal Questions with Dr. T, starring the one and only Maria Sweeney. Yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay.
Being an illustration artist means being able to tell stories that you wouldn't as easily be able to tell or feel as comfortable in sharing as you can in an artistic media. Illustration to me allows me to speak to audiences that I may not be as comfortable speaking to one-on-one, but allows me to reach more people in a much more honest and comfortable way for me. I wasn't always intending to be an illustrator. I wasn't always holding a pencil from when I was young, but through failing a geometry class in high school, or almost failing, I spent a lot of that time doodling and drawing, and then later took the time that I spent there and studied more seriously, and then pursued illustration on a professional level. To me, comics mean bridging a gap of understanding between the audience and myself, particularly my autobio comics that focus on some of the smaller nuances of being disabled, some things that the able-bodied community can not intentionally but often overlook some of the disabled experiences, and that's sort of the main focus that I try to share in my autobio comics work. I hope that my comics are able to reach the audience that already carries some judgment about the disabled community. It can be hard to answer what I want people to take away from my comics, or what symbol I want, because ultimately there's a lot of small facets that I want to be taken from my comics. It's not just simply like one stance, but sort of how do you approach disabled people in general? How do you feel they contribute to society? These are questions that I want to be known for helping answer. It's less of like a visual person, but more of a source. Growing up, words like accommodation and accessibility and just disability advocacy were not hot topics. It was always kind of the impression of disabled people that their life was their kind of struggle to deal with on their own, and that nobody was going to come and accommodate for you. And for a long time, that is kind of the way my life was. And as I got into college and I found that there were departments that allowed you to seek out accommodations for yourself, it opened up this identity that I had closed for myself about being disabled and coming to terms with something that I always had, but I just wasn't allowed with the social constructs around me to declare for myself. So now, being a comic artist that shares stories about their own personal experience, it's terribly frightening sometimes to share a story that you know was not listened to when you were younger. I also feel very tired of the way disabled people are treated in our country and in our world, and that compels me to share my stories, even though it makes me uncomfortable to do so. I feel like doing art allows me this small voice and this small platform, and all I think about is just how to better other people's lives, including my own, in a world that doesn't really cater to us. And my hope is that my art is able to do just that. Even though I am a young woman with a disability, I am still an artist. I still have goals. I still have things that I want to achieve and pursue. I still want a sense of notoriety in my career and some level of acclaim or success, and I think that's healthy for any individual to strive for, particularly if they're creative or they're working in some kind of industry. You want to be successful, and having a disability is really not a big part of achieving that success. In terms of being a disabled woman, my message wouldn't so much go out to other disabled people, but more to the able-bodied community, and just simply to listen. Disabled people know what they want, and they know exactly what they need, and we're often told exactly the opposite. We're told what we should want and should need, and more often we're told what we can't have. And I don't think anybody with any kind of disability deserves to be treated that way. I think a lot about the connection between social media and the disabled community. And on one hand, social media is the gatekeeper for allowing people with mobility issues, anxiety issues, people who just can't go out so much, to connect with people instantly across the world. But it's also a double-edged sword. It's very easy for negative commentary to come anonymously and easily from the able-bodied community to target the disabled community. I think that it's very important to have representation of the disabled community in all kinds of media. We're slowly getting there, but it's impossible for someone who is able-bodied to fully understand the nuances and just the small daily either disappointments or triumphs that particularly, I can speak from a physically disabled person, but all disabilities really. An able-bodied person just can't know what that's like. And the thing is, we have a lot of talented and exceptional disabled people in our world and in our country that are underemployed, that are not given the same employment opportunities, that are not given the same schooling opportunities. And it's unfair to assume that they would not want to be part of the entertainment industry when they're not even given the basic schooling, education, or transportation or access to achieve those roles. So if you do find somebody that has an agent or wants to be in the industry and is pursuing it and they're disabled, that's important. That's something that you should be lifting up. And I think we have a lot of media that wants to encapsulate disabilities, but doesn't want to put the work in to include that community. The disabled community shouldn't be removed from reality TV simply because of the reputation reality TV can have. Disabled people should be represented on that forum just as much as anyone else. I think reality TV gets a bad rep because of what you see, but I think there can be a lot of really important and informative information that comes out of reality TV, particularly if you're going to be sharing the experiences of people less likely to be shared about, such as the disabled community. If I myself were to have my work or my life on reality TV, other than sharing my process as an artist and as a creator, I would also want to include some of the nuances that come with being disabled, some of the nuances that come with being a disabled artist, and how, for instance, if you want to be a fine artist, a lot of your connections come through going to galleries themselves and meeting people one-on-one. If you're a wheelchair user or physically disabled, that's actually not that accessible. So what that means is that you already don't have equal footing in this industry. And I think having a reality show about the careers of disabled people and how they overcome work, how they speak up for themselves during uncomfortable social situations could be interesting, could be funny, and not in laughing at a disabled person, but disabled people are funny too. They have a lot of funny, humorous experiences that people don't think they have, but we do. And I think reality TV could be a wonderful source of sharing those experiences.